Hello, my name is Hannah Ross, and today I'm going to be presenting on a research study done in 2004 by three psychologists, Campini, Crawley, and Myers. Their study is called The Role of Suggestion in Odor-Induced Mood Change. I thought this was an interesting topic because I see a lot recently after I went Black Friday shopping that Bath & Body Works is just one example of a company that has a lot of products marketed for aromatherapy or products that can claim to change your mood based on the odor of the product. So yeah, doing some further research, I chose this study as I figured it was relevant for the consumer world. So there has been a lot of past research done on olfaction, and olfaction is the sense of smell. So this has been a study of research in the past. There are two men especially who are pioneers of this type of research study, and their names are Dr. George Dodd and Dr. Steve Van Toller. Dodd actually founded a research group called the Warwick Olfaction Research Group, which then Van Toller came on board and worked with him and now runs the research group now. But this Warwick Olfaction Research Group produces a lot of the research and knowledge we have about olfaction today. So they did research in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and they still continue doing so today. But in 1992, they published a book together they co-wrote it called Fragrance, The Psychology and Biology of Perfume. And in it, they kind of summarized the results from their previous research and decided that there was little dispute that exposure to odor can lead to a genuine change in mood. But they began questioning whether a placebo effect was taking place, or that is to say, whether the odor was only having a change in the mood because people expected there to be a change in the mood, or they thought there would be. But they noted that this placebo effect appears in all classical healing and complementary medicine, and it's an area where, in regards to olfaction, there needs to be more research done. There was some more research done on this. In 1987, there was a man named Kirk Smith who did a research study called Chemoreception in Human Behavior, Experimental Analysis of the Social Effect of Fragrances. And so what this experiment found was that unconscious odor conditioning can occur, and odors are affected of past experience, expectation, and suggestion. So for example, I'm sure we all have a memory of, grandma's cookies in the kitchen, and whenever we think of cookies now and we think back to grandma, we smell that smell of the cookies baking in our kitchen and we think back to grandma, and that brings us good memories. So we have a present predisposition to that smell because of the memories associated with it. So, and then we have another study done in 1990 by Canasco, Gilbert, and Sabini, and its title was The Emotional State, Physical Well-Being, and Performance in the Presence of Feigned Ambient Odor. So this study did not specifically address the role of suggestion in perceived odor, but what it did do is it observed that suggestion of pleasant odor could induce a positive mood state. Although we were left after the results of that experiment wondering to what extent does the effects of suggestion interact with possible direct effects of odor on mood. So that's where our study comes into play today. The three researchers whose study I will be presenting hypothesized that psychologically and self-reported mood ratings would differ according to the suggested effect of the odor presented. That meaning that the odor would not necessarily be creating the effect in mood, but rather the suggestion that there would be a change in mood is what affected there being a change in mood. So to test our hypothesis, they gathered 90 female students from the Marywood Participant Pool, which is a college. The average age of the participants was 20.3 years old. They only took non-smokers and females in good respiratory health, and they asked participants not to eat an hour before the test. So the materials used for this experiment are the two odors being used, which are lavender, which is noted for its attributes to being relaxing, and neroli, which is noted for being a stimulating fragrance. An essential air odor diffuser was used to diffuse the smell into the rooms, and there was three 8.5 by 6.5 by 10-foot rooms. So these were fairly large rooms that were being diffused oil into. So they were all the three rooms. I will talk about those later. There was a heart rate monitor and a skin conductance recorder to record the psychological recording part of this experiment. A profile of mood states was used, which is a test where 65 adjectives are listed, and on a scale of 1 being not really to 4 being extremely, the participant would rate how they felt if they were feeling each adjective. There was the odor rating sheet, and this was a sheet rating the odor that they perceived to be around them as pleasant, familiar, intense, and arousal. So on a scale of 1 to 7, they would rate how much of each of these the smell was. And then thematic perception cards, or TAC cards, were used. And what these are is you rate and what these are is it shows a scene, it depicts a picture or a scene on them, and the participant would have to rate the scene for perceived arousal. So either they perceived the scene as relaxed or alert, and then they talked about how this made them feel and made kind of a short story to go along depicting what the scene could be showing. And this was just to keep them occupied, so data from the TAC cards was thrown out, as it was not what we were testing for. And then the design of the experiment, the independent variables were odor and suggestion. So there are 3 different odors and 3 suggestions could be made to each odor, which gives us a total of 9 conditions. I'll touch on this later. And then our dependent variable, or what we're measuring, is the mood of the participant after the study. So the procedure, participants were tested individually and they were brought to an unscented room. They were hooked up to the skin conductance recording machines and the heart rate monitor, and they were given a consent form before this. And they were randomly assigned to a room. So they sat in the unscented room for 5 minutes to accommodate themselves, and then they were removed to a second location where there was a scented room, and they were introduced to both independent variables. So for example, if the person was randomly assigned to a room with the lavender scent, they were brought to the room with the lavender scent, which had already been diffused, so it already smelled like the lavender. And then they would sit in this room for 5 minutes to acclimate themselves, and either a suggestion was made that the smell was supposed to be relaxing or stimulating, or there was no suggestion made at all for how the person should feel about the smell. So the experiment lasted 25 minutes long after the 5-minute acclimation period in the scented room, and 1 TAC card was shown every 5 minutes, and then the participant would discuss the TAC card for 5 minutes, and once the 5 minutes was up, a new one would show, and this happened 5 times for a total of 25 minutes. So at the end of the 5 TAC cards, a profile of mood states was completed, and the odor rating sheet was completed as well. And the pre-test was done in the unscented room. They completed the profile of mood states and the odor rating sheet, and then the post-test was done at the end of the experiment. The psychological recordings were being recorded for the entire 25 minutes, and the end values were taken as the post-test data. So here I have a chart explaining what conditions the participants could be assigned to. So as you can see, these are where our 9 conditions come from. So for example, we have neroli, and it can either be suggested to be made stimulating, relaxing, or there's an absence of suggestion. and the placebo in this experiment was no odor at all. So the participants who were in the placebo group were told that there was a small odor in the room and they may or not be able to smell it. So the results of this study, let's see. So the results, so after this was done 90 times, we have an analysis had been performed on the data, we come up with our results. So here in table 1, it is called the mean differences in heart rate and skin conductance for odor and suggestion conditions. So on the left hand side we have our odor, and under it we can see lavender, neroli, placebo. And then to the right hand side it's the suggestion, so a suggestion was made. We have relaxing, stimulating, no suggestion. Okay, so for example, we can see that lavender, and then under each scent is the heart rate and the skin conductance. So these are the mean differences, and the mean difference was taken from, and it was calculated by taking the pre-test score and taking it from the post-test score. So for example, if a participant was placed in the lavender room and then they were made the suggestion that the room was supposed to be relaxing, we can see that their heart rate went down 4.49 points with a standard deviation of 3.2. So if a number is negative, it means that the value has lowered, while positive means it has risen. So we see that there is a significant main effect of suggestion. So this data is significant, and there is a main effect of suggestion on psychological recordings. So that means that if an odor, regardless of what the odor was, if the suggestion was that it was relaxing, the person's heart rate would decrease and their skin conductance would decrease as well. Whereas if a odor was said to be stimulating, then the heart rate and the skin conductance would increase. So the significance main effect here is the suggestion, not the odor itself. And there was a significant difference for each of the conditions and options available. So then more results in table 2, we have the means for profile of mood states, subscales, and total mood score. So under subscale we have tension, depression, anger, vigor, fatigue, and confusion. And the participants were supposed to rate how they felt at the beginning and the end of the experiment, and these were some of the words that they could say they felt, and then a higher number represents that they agreed they felt that way more. So for example, we can see so that they felt that way more. So the analyzed profile of mood states suggests that there was no significant difference in mood pre-test to post-test. The only significant factor for a decrease in tension, depression, fatigue, and confusion, which is why they're starred, you can see from pre-test to post-test they decreased. It was calculated that time was the only significant factor for this decrease, and not actually what odor was present. So to me, what these results mean are that the odor itself, or the essential oil, did not induce a mood change, but rather suggestion was the reason a participant's mood changed, and we can accredit the change to the suggestion, not the odor itself, which is interesting because when I was Black Friday shopping, as I said previously, I did notice that lotions were marketed for their odor-induced mood-changing abilities. So for example, there's this lotion and it smelled of jasmine vanilla, and to the left you can see some quotes that these were just taken from the Bath & Body Works website. A few of them are listed on the lotion bottle itself, and a few of these quotes that I've pulled were taken from the Bath & Body Works website of the online page selling this product. And as you can see, it says the jasmine absolute inspires sexy self-confidence, while vanilla absolute soothes. So it's saying that these smells will create these feelings in you, and I just think it's kind of ridiculous for them to market it in this way because, as we saw, it's the suggestion that changes your mood, not the actual odor. And of course, this bottle of lotion is more expensive than other Bath and Body Works lotions, which actually have more lotion in them. It has a more fluid ounce, but the ones that don't market themselves as aromatherapy are cheaper. So the product here is being sold for its scent, which is said to do the mood change. Although, based off the study, we know that's not true. And I really think it's interesting to go along. I'm not sure why products should be allowed to be advertised like this because the essential oils, which are in the jasmine vanilla lotion, are sold purely as well, just as the essential oil. For example, I have a picture of lavender, and on the left are, this is a brand called doTERRA, and it's the most pure essential oils you can buy. They're therapeutic grade, and lavender has been allegedly claimed for many benefits, but even on their website, when they sell the product, they have to say that their statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration, and this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. So the pure essential oil, which ideally would have the most potency and the most chance of benefiting you, has to be, a warning has to be on it to say that this isn't promised yet a lotion which has even less of the essential oils and added fragrance oils, which are not the same, can be allowed to be advertised for its odor induced mood change. So that is why I believe that packaging of aromatherapy products should be changed as to not say that as to not make it seem more of a false promise that these moods that they're promising could actually be created. Thank you.